Today we will discuss the Book of the Duchess, which is written by the Middle English poet Geoffrey Chaucer. But before starting the poem, let me tell you that Geoffrey Chaucer had some kind of royal connection. Though his father was a wine merchant, but Chaucer's wife, Philippa Roet, was the sister of John of Gaunt's third wife. John of Gaunt was a powerful patron and son of Edward III, and Edward III was the king of England that time. So Geoffrey Chaucer was the kinsman of John of Gaunt, and that's how Chaucer is connected with the royalists. Now why I am telling you this, because when John of Gaunt's third wife, Blanche, Duchess of Lancaster, she died, John of Gaunt requested Chaucer to write an elegy on her, and Chaucer wrote his first poem, the Book of the Duchess, in Middle English language. The poem has more than 1300 lines. Chaucer took inspiration from two French poets, William de Loris and Jean de Meun's Les Romans de la Rose, to write this poem. The original title of this book is The Book of the Duchess, and it is also known as The Dream of Chaucer. This poem is Chaucer's first narrative poem, and it is in dream allegory. The Book of the Duchess was written in 1369 and in frame narrative. Now what is a frame narrative? Remember friends, when the story is narrated within a story, we call that narration a frame narrative, or we call the story a frame story. The poem starts with the poet suffering from insomnia, means he is facing some kind of sleep issues, or we can simply say this is a sleepless night for the poet, and he decides to read a story. The story of Ceyx and Alcyone from Ovid's Metamorphoses. And it is containing the story of two lovers, Ceyx and Alcyone. As I told you before that it is a frame story, so here we have a story within a story. Here the poet is reading the story of Ceyx and Alcyone. A fictional king whose name was Ceyx went for a sea adventure, and a sudden tempest occurred. The king drowned with his ship. On the other side, the king's wife, Alcyone, waited a long time. But when Ceyx didn't return, she prayed to goddess Juno to send her a dream, so that she could able to know whether her husband is dead or alive. Then Juno's messenger came to Morpheus. For those who don't know about Juno and Morpheus, let me tell you that according to Roman mythology, Juno is the chief goddess and wife of Jupiter. Now who is Morpheus? According to Greco-Roman mythology, Morpheus is the god of sleep. Morpheus has ability to put gods and mortals to sleep. Now let's continue our story. Juno's messenger came to Morpheus and said that goddess Juno commanded you to go and find the body of dead king Ceyx on the seashore, find his body, possess the body, and make the king appear in Alcyone's dream and tell her that her husband is dead. Morpheus, the god of sleep, did the same as he was told to do. And Alcyone also died of grief 3 days later, after knowing that her husband is dead. And that's how the story of Ceyx and Alcyone ends. After reading the story of Ceyx and Alcyone, the narrator thought that if a god helped Alcyone to sleep, the god would do the same for the narrator also. Because remember how we started the story, our narrator is suffering from insomnia, right? So the narrator prays to the god, he prays to the god to bring some sleep to his eyes. And finally his prayer is heard, and he immediately falls asleep and sees a dream. And now starts the dream vision. In the dream, the narrator finds himself in a beautiful May morning. He finds himself in a chamber, where on the walls he sees the paintings of the characters of great Trojan war. There is the painting of Achilles, painting of Hector, painting of King Priam, and many more. With them the story of the romance of the rose. After seeing this, the narrator leaves the chamber and finds out that a hunting is going on. The hunting party is of Octavian. Octavian was the first Roman emperor. The poet follows the hunting party and enters into a deep forest and finds a knight in black. The knight is lamenting. He is crying. When the poet asks the knight about the reason behind his lamentation, the knight replies, "I played the game of chess with fortune and I lost the game." The knight says, "By our Lord I will say, at chase with me she began to play, with her false moves diversely seen, she stole upon me and took my queen. Now the knight describes her beauty and her virtues to the poet and finally says that now she is dead. So we easily come to know that the knight is representing the patron John of Gaunt, and that good Lady White, the wife of the knight, represents Blanche, Duchess of Lancaster. And suddenly the hunting party appears and the nearby castle bell strikes 12 and the poet wakes up from his sleep, finds the book of Alcyone and Ceyx still in his hand. Finally the poet decides to write his dream in rhymes. And that's how the long narrative poem Book of the Duchess comes to an end. So that's it for today. We will meet again in next video with a new topic. Till then, stay healthy, stay happy, keep loving literature.